Now, our first story, an Accra High Court on Wednesday discharged entertainment personality Kwesi Dakwa of the rape charge brought against him. This was after the state said it was no longer interested in pursuing the matter. The state had indicated it would go ahead to try KKD even though the said victim had stated her unwillingness to cooperate, and a 7-member jury was to be constituted to hear the case on Wednesday. Anil Sabute, however, reports the state in a U-turn dropped the charges.
In court that this morning the state prosecutor came to inform the court that the state no longer is interested in pursuing the case. And actually yesterday they did file a nolle prosequi to the extent that they are no longer interested in the case. And part of the reasons was that if you look at the alleged victim, the 19-year-old man in the center of the whole allegation, said she's no longer interested. I remember in the course of the covering this particular case, we did speak to some former prosecutors who said that once the lady said she's no longer interested, then what exactly are you going to base your evidence on? What exactly are you going to hold the man on? Because if the lady were to still come to court, then fine, then she's going to be a key witness. But whereby she, the victim, says, I'm no longer interested, the other party that you have listed as your witness, what specific account are they going to give? So, based on legal opinions right from there, most of them thought that the state ought not to have gone ahead in the first place. Well, this particular case of, my understanding is that a case of this nature, requires that the jury is empaneled. And when my information tells me that at the beginning of every year, the judiciary itself, looks within the community and handpick eminent persons they believe and a good frame of mind, and they can sit on cases of such nature. But today, that is the information all of us had understanding was that a jury will be empaneled and the trial will begin. Only for us to be informed that yesterday the state filed and only for us to say that they are no longer interested because the lady at the center of the allegation says, I am no longer interested in pursuing the case against the man I have accused of raping.
The Attorney General Marietta Briapia Opong has meanwhile explained her outfit dropped the rape charges against Kwesi Dakwa mainly because the alleged victim has been unwilling to testify.
The airport police arrested KKD on December 27, 2014, after a 19-year-old lady, Miss Irefe Ollins Thompson, accused him of raping her in a hotel washroom. State prosecutors had vowed to prosecute KKD even though the alleged victim, 19-year-old Irefe Ollins Thompson, had written to them declaring her disinterest in the case. They, however, beat a retreat when the case was called on Wednesday. Explaining the reasons why the state dropped the case, the state in a communique said the decision was taken because, quote, the victim, in this case Irefe, is still very unwilling to testify in court. The victim states that she is highly traumatized by the events of the day of the incident and its aftermath, and so is not in the right frame of mind to appear before the court, unquote. The communique stated that the Attorney General believes that it is not in the best interest of the victim and the prosecution to present her before the court at this point in time. The AG stressed that it is mindful of the provisions under the Prosecutor's Code, one of which is that the best interest of the victim is to be considered in cases of this nature in deciding whether to prosecute a case or not. The statement also noted that other witnesses in this case, who are mostly family members of Irefe, are also very unwilling to testify. The AG's department, in spite of the challenges, said it still believes in the case and reserves the right to commence the prosecution once the victim and witnesses are ready.
There's an easy calm at Agbogbloshi, a suburb here in Accra, where a clash between two ethnic groups left 4 people injured on Tuesday. This was after another altercation early Wednesday left 1 more person injured. Derek Ekosam meanwhile reports that police are still on the ground in the area to curb further clashes.
Around 8 a.m. Wednesday, the area looked calm and the settlers had returned to their various places of work. If you had come here between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. yesterday, you wouldn't have had anywhere to stand. It was a sight to behold, but not for the positive reasons. Today we are back here again. It appears that everything is calm. It is back to business as usual. The people who were involved in the feud were called into a meeting by the Regional Security Council, and they have resolved never again to go back to what happened yesterday. I would want to talk to some of the leaders here to get to know what measures they are putting in place so that whatever happened yesterday does not rear its ugly head again.
It is from the boys. Our boys, it's not from we the leaders, because the onion sellers, they are leaders. They say that them and the governments they don't have fight, and that is where we also stand for. We don't have fight with them, but it is only within their boys and our boys. We spoke to them that now everything should come. Nobody should attempt anything, because now our leaders have put their hands inside to make the things to solve.
There are others who are saying that this whole issue has a root cause, that there's a deep lying enmity between the two factions. Is it true?
No, not at all. For that one, it's not true. It's not true. There's nothing like that, because we are always here together, and we are all Muslims, and we pray together. So there's nothing like that.
We control our boys because we have the knowledge of controlling our boys, because they are not ahead of us. We are their leaders, so we control them.
So moving forward, what are some of the measures you have put in place to ensure that whatever happened here yesterday does not happen again?
Yeah, we put measures that those ragamuffin boys, the weed smokers, and then the drug addict boys, will see whether they are inside of us or they are onion sellers. Some of them are not onion sellers. We don't know them. We don't know some of them. We have our constitution. If a boy insults an adult person, he will go 3 weeks. If you beat somebody, 2 months.
But a few minutes after this promise, Joy News sources hinted that a group from the scrap dealers had attacked the onion sellers. One person was injured and is currently on admission at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. The police therefore has had to beef up security in the area after leaders of both sides were called into a meeting with the RECSEC. ASP Efiatenge is Public Relations Officer for the Accra Region Police Command.
The police has beefed up security at Abublushi, and there's relatively calmness at Abublushi, and we hope that the peace that has been restored will be maintained. Yesterday, to the leaders of the various factions, that's the Dagomba and the Zamnamra, were invited for a RECSEC meeting, so the Regional Security Council meeting, for the members of the council to engage them in a dialogue. And they have also assured the RECSEC or the Regional Council that they are going to be of the best of behaviors and they are going to speak to their people.
As it stands, the police intends to keep an eye on happenings in the area to prevent the situation from escalating any further. Derek Ekol-Sam, Abublushi, Accra.
Elsewhere, the Bolgatanga chapter of the Bimoba Youth Association has condemned the recent chieftaincy clashes at Mpurugu in the northern region. The chieftaincy dispute last week resulted in the death of 2 persons and the burning down of several houses, forcing the Ministry of Interior to impose a curfew on the area. At an annual get-together of the association, its chairman, George Dood Nangpak, said such clashes are a hindrance to development in the area and called on all Bimobas to condemn them.
The Bimoba Youth Association from the Tanga chapter wishes to register its displeasure on the recent chieftaincy clashes between 2 royal gates in Mpurugu and finds the acts unfortunate and regrettable in this era of civilization where there are numerous channels of solving problems. This conflict, whatever the issues are, which is between brothers from the same paternal grandfather, is unacceptable by the entirety of the larger Bimoba land and should be condemned in all uncertain terms. The association recommends that all clans of the Bimoba stock document their laid-down structure of chieftaincy succession for implementation in the shortest possible time. This will enable future generations to have smooth and violence-free and scheming of chiefs.
Meanwhile, residents of Bunkrugu Yoyo are appealing for an immediate review of the curfew on the town. They say that 4 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew is impacting negatively on business. Seth Kwame Boateng reports.
So I'm here today, I'm in Bunkrugu, where there have been disturbances since last week. In fact, 2 people died and a number of houses were burnt. Today, the Interior Minister is here with his colleagues from the Upper East and Northern region, and they are here to speak to parties in the conflict and see for themselves conditions here. Residents are already calling for a review of the curfew. It starts from 4 p.m. to 6 a.m. and they are not comfortable with it. I've also been speaking to people about what they make of this curfew, and as you can see, a number of security men here with their vehicles. They are trying to ensure that there is total peace in this area. Residents are rushing home. As you can see, this place used to be a very busy area, but because of the curfew, which starts any moment from now, they are rushing home and they can't really work well.
Nalergo, Gambaga have been very peaceful. I want to appeal to you to ensure that the other traditional areas under your jurisdiction enjoy the same peace as Gambaga, Nalergo enjoy the peace. That is my special appeal to you. Let me also use this opportunity to say that we have this serious proliferation of arms into this part of the country.
He is very convinced that because of the deaths that occurred, that influence the youth to come out and misbehave. Most of the elder group are not part of that. They just few who are doing this. And we are all fortunate that we had security men at hand, and that at the time it started, the security were able to intervene, and that actually stalled what would have happened there.
The curfew is affecting us in a way. You know, we are in the district capital. Some people come from other communities to come and work here.
The curfew, it is good they have imposed it, looking at the way our people were misbehaving.
The distribution of gas burners and cylinders provided by the Ministry of Petroleum is said to be the source of a rift between executives of the National Democratic Congress in the Jomoro district and the area's DC, Sylvester Numada. The party executives are demanding the removal of the DC, who also insist it is because he has refused to relinquish distribution of the items to them. He explains the items are meant for the whole district and not only the executives.
The Jomoro DCE Sylvester Numada explains the items were presented by the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum for the benefit of the whole district, including chiefs, elders, and even members of the opposition. He indicated his refusal to hand over the items to the NDC executives is not reason enough for new executives to demonstrate against him.
I have no problem if they want someone else to contest the DCE office. I will also do my bit to maintain my seat.
Sylvester has won the seat again.
On his part, the new district NDC party chairman Gideon Koniba said that DCE has not been cooperative since he and his current party executives assumed office. This, he believes, will affect productivity in the district. He explains, despite several talks with him, the DCE has been adamant. The chairman therefore wants the president to replace the DCE before his action leads to ill fortunes for the NDC in the district in the 2016 general elections.
Taking a break, we have more stories coming up. Don't go away. Another news, stakeholders in the public tertiary education sector have proposed a cost-sharing approach in the payment of utilities by students. Government, tertiary institutions, students and staff under the arrangement are to jointly bear the cost of electricity and water bills. Heads of public tertiary institutions and teacher associations led by the Education Ministry reached a consensus after a meeting at the University of Professional Studies in Accra.
The Minister of Education, Professor Opoku-Agyeman, said between November 2011 and February 2013, the government expended over 25 million on 13 public tertiary institutions as payment for electricity bills alone. She further added that between August 2013 and January 2014, almost 7 million Ghana cedis was spent on 19 public tertiary institutions alone, stressing that the amount represented a fraction of the full cost of utilities in the public educational institutions. Stakeholders who participated in the discussion of strategies for sustainable consumption of utilities in tertiary institutions observed the use of different electrical appliances by students and the manner in which they are used especially greatly contribute to wastage. As such, government can no longer bear sole responsibility for the payment of utilities. They recommended a metering system should be installed to differentiate the various users. The heads of universities also intend to pursue alternative sources of electricity and water, such as harvesting rain, wells, biogas, and solar energy. They are also calling for regulations on the use of utilities to be developed and users compelled to comply. The crunch meeting was in response to the worsening energy crisis coupled with wastage of electricity and water usage in public tertiary institutions.
Some tertiary students have meanwhile vowed to resist the cost-sharing policy being proposed by government. The policy, when finally rolled out, will compel tertiary students in traditional halls of residence to pay for the utilities they consume. Joy News' Latif Idris visited some tertiary institutions and reports most of the students are not amused.
Some students of University of Ghana who spoke to Joy News said the policy would only add to the financial burdens they are dealing with.
I think what it's going to do is that it's going to put more pressure on students financially as well as psychologically. And if you take an institution as we have it, an educational one like this, what you'd want to do as a government or as a management is to make sure that your students are psychologically sound, they have everything that they need to be able to study effectively. And if as a government you are going to compromise this by putting this extra financial and psychological burden on students, I think in the long run students are going to be at a great disadvantage. I believe that all other student activists and members of the university community would also resist it.
I believe majority of the student populace would love to know that their school fees are going to be increased or their hostel fees are going to be increased drastically. But this will be a drastic increment. Well, I believe we can find a very civilized way of going about it. Petitioning, perhaps.
The students contend the best direction for government to go is to subsidize cost of education, which is consistently increasing.
It's not really something I really support, because government should at least intercede on behalf of the students, because it's not every student you see on campus here are even able to pay their fees. Some are even struggling to pay. So if they introduce this utility bill, I don't think it's very favorable.
Actually, it will bring many burdens upon the students, because some of us will not afford all of them. So that is why we purchased for the traditional halls. So if you are going to bring all these burdens on us, getting the hostels and a whole lot of staff on campus will become very difficult for the students, and many people will not even be able to attend for the next semester because they know they will not be able to afford, because actually you are paying for about 1,000 cedis for our academic tuition and those staff fees, and we are paying almost 600 Ghana cedis for hostel, making it 1,600 Ghana cedis for just a year. So if you are going to bring all those burdens, it will be rating more than 2,500 a year and make the burden so much for students and parents to pay. So I think it's not a nice idea.
Those students are unwilling to embark on this cost-sharing mission with government. Some of them are conveniently paying generator usage costs imposed on them by their institutions.
Authorities of the St. John's Grammar Senior High School have justified the enforcement of the school's directive against students perming their hair on campus. 3 students, as a result, were unable to sit for their Christian Religious Studies paper in the ongoing West African Senior School Certificate exam. The school's headmaster, however, says it is untrue the 3 were prevented from writing the paper.
Headmaster Emmanuel narrates 6 students were asked to stand aside during routine inspection for wearing unprescribed hairstyles, including perming their hair and wearing artificial eyelashes. The supervisor who ordered the action later discovered 3 of the students had disappeared. These 3, he continues, are perpetual offenders who missed the exams because they left school to report the incident to a local radio station.
They were not asked to, they were not prevented from writing. And it was not the whole examination, it was only one paper, and that is the CRS. They have been allowed to write in spite of their defiance to the caution to go and dress well. They were allowed to write all these papers. So as to the issue of the head has lost his head, I will not comment about it. Whoever thinks the head has lost his head, he should keep it. Let his conscience judge him.
Just for a bit of clarity, at what point did the students sneak out?
He is not aware himself, but for all he knows, he has asked them to enter. So at the point of taking the attendance, that is where he realized that these students were not there.
What steps did the supervisor or the school take to try and get the students back before this whole issue went into the media landscape?
As I told you, I only heard of it at 1 o'clock, and we are still collating the report.
According to Mr. Fiamapula, the other 3 sat through the paper in spite of the offences. When asked if permed hair was against the rule of education in Ghana, he responded, it's the school regulations students must abide by.
Keeping hair is part of dress code. Just to look decent. And it is in their brochure. When they report or admitted, they are taken through. If anyone has any reservation to that, you have every right to raise it, and you will be permitted to keep it on. You don't accept the code of dressing, and along the line, and you decide to do what you want to do. And it means you are breaching the rules and regulations. So, in order not to allow others to probably also do what they want, we have to keep you informed.
Meanwhile, action has been taken to re-register those students to write the paper at a later date. Kemini Nyamani for Joy News.
Meanwhile, child-focused NGO Child Rights International is pushing for the prosecution of the headmaster of the St. John's Grammar Senior High School, Emmanuel, for preventing the 3 final-year students from writing the WASI. That decision has been criticized by groups who are seeking punishment for the headmaster. Speaking on the Super Morning Show, Executive Director of Child Rights International, Bright Appiah, agrees the headmaster has to be dealt with in court. He asserted that a child cannot be denied the right to write an examination.
Whatever conduct that they put out there, I think that the necessary and the corresponding issues, they were dealt with by the school. That's why when they went to the club, they were sanctioned, they were demonetized and all that. But in this particular case, you cannot say that the children are subjected to the rules and regulations that govern the school. Because one, the examination that they are writing is a standard examination. It has nothing to do with St. John's. It has everything to do with WAEC. So they need to, whatever they will do must pertain to the rules and regulations that will be put out by WAEC, so far as examination purposes are concerned. So they cannot extend the rules of the school to the children. If they, no matter how bad they are, once they are taking examinations, and the law provides that whatever we will do, the best interest of the child, they need to be protected. I think that should be their governing principle in relation to dealing with this case. Because if you even hear the headmaster in relation to the other people who had opportunity to write.
Joint investigations have revealed massive diversion of chemicals and other inputs meant for the free mass cocoa spraying exercise in the Ashanti region. Various collaborators, including security personnel, are set to collude to sell off products supplied by government for the exercise at the expense of poor cocoa farmers. In the first of a two-part report, Erastus Cesare Donko exposes how police officers shield alleged perpetrators from prosecution and, in some cases, return impounded items to them.
Mass cocoa spraying introduced by the Kufuor administration under the Cocoa Disease and Pest Control or CODAPEC placed supply of items under the supervision of district chief executives. The arrangement, however, is said to have changed when Dr. Stephen Opuni assumed charge as chief executive of the Ghana Cocoa Board. The CODAPEC secretariat at the Cocoa Board took over distribution. Chemical brands like Redomil, Funguran, Coside, Nordox, Agrocomet, Confidor, Atara and Akatamaster are forwarded to chief farmers for onward delivery to spraying gangs for their work. Among these stakeholders, many of these chemicals, clearly marked not for sale, are stolen in large quantities and sold to foreign dealers in Nigeria, Burkina Faso and Ivory Coast. In the course of the investigation, I met this man, averagely well-built, casually dressed, appears bold and confident, speaks fluent Twi. For the purpose of this report, I call him Kwame Ojam. He has been tracking the illegal sale of cocoa spraying chemicals for years. He trails the agents, feigns interest in buying the items, and informs security agencies to effect arrest. He has assisted security agencies to seize large consignments of cocoa inputs sold illegally to farmers who are supposed to get them for free. Abuakwa District Police Command, headed by Superintendent Joseph Nyaba, raided the residence of one Kweku Sabin at Pokukrum near Abuakwa a month ago. 102 boxes of assorted brands of chemicals were found in his kitchen as well as the sitting and bedrooms. The suspect was unavailable at the time of the operation, but his wife, Diana Nyama, was arrested. Police estimate the cost of the products at 155,000 Ghana cedis. Superintendent Nyaba explains further.
And she was put before circuit court in Kawie and she was given bail. Now a bench warrant was issued for the arrest of Sabin, the husband. So we are still looking for him.
What has happened with regards to the items?
No, we couldn't get a sizable exhibit store to put the items since there were many. Since we couldn't get a sizable place to put it, the judge ordered that the items be released to Cocoa Board.
Has Cocoa Board come for the items?
They have come for them.
Who came for him?
Mr. Yalungu was even part. He's the whole country. He's their security boss and other Cocoa Board staff. And they came with their official Cocoa Board truck to load it.
Ojam, however, alleges shortly after the seized goods got to the Abuakwa police, he received a call from Superintendent Nyaba seeking his consent in a 20,000 Ghana cedi bribe being offered by the suspects. He says he refused the police officer's request, asking to come back to the station, for which he believes he paid a price. According to him, the next morning, police arrested him and charged him for impersonating the Ashanti Regional Police Commander in the sale of weapons.
I had visited the Abuakwa commander. On my way back, I had a call from him that the suspects have offered 20,000 Ghana cedis, so I should come back. But I told him I cannot be part of the deal. Then he said I should come back and write a statement. But I told him I've never seen informants writing statements, so I won't. On Saturday, I was picked up by 2 armed policemen and charged with impersonating DCOP Kofi Boache in the sale of arms.
My investigations reveal about 2 years ago, Superintendent Nyaba, then commander of the police Buffalo unit, and another policeman identified only as Bosheba, led a team to seize cocoa chemicals at a garage at Abuakwa Menchia. Kwame Ojam's tip-off had led the team to one Kwame Anane's compound house, 3 blocks behind a manufacturing facility in the town. Bosheba and 4 others discovered about 800 boxes of Atara, Confidor, Akatemaster and Redomil. Police brought 300 boxes loaded in a van van parked in the suspect's house to the police station and kept in Superintendent Nyabe's care, but the 500 boxes in the garage were left untouched. Nobody was arrested, and the whereabouts of the items are unknown. A local journalist who witnessed the seizure at Ebuakwa Menchia corroborated the story.
I first contacted then Buffalo Commander, Mr. Joseph Nyaba, and he said no, they are not doing any operation like that. I pushed him to the wall. Later, he told me that the man, they know him. He chop and give them to also chop. So if I can meet them.
Who were they referring to?
I'm referring to Kwame Anane.
In some of the cases, reports suggest Cocoa Board officials take over the seized items, but the outcome of investigation remains unknown. Reporting for Joy News, Erastus Asaredonko, Love FM, Kumasi.
Up next, we bring you business news with Abigail Adoma-Quincy. Stay tuned. So Abigail Adoma-Quincy is here with the business news, and today you're looking extremely tall.
Are
and
you sure? I'm
wondering where the height.
I'm tall.
Oh, are you are?
Yes, but
okay.
Just today I just wanted to put a little swagger in the business.
All right, take it up.
All right, let's get the details now in business. And the Ghana Revenue Authority has launched a new electronic filing system. It says should make it a lot easier for taxpayers to fulfill their obligations to the state. The new system, according to its governor, Paul Kwachi, should also make it easier to track people who evade taxes.
The way we see it is that if we make it easy for people to do things, they are more likely to comply. But when it's difficult, imagine you have to get out from your office. The traffic itself is does not encourage you. So if we are able to get people to file online or file for the portal, then they will be doing their transactions. It encourages them. It means the interactions between staff, people coming to do things, is not there anymore. You can do these transactions, and because you are doing it, maybe the stress of how you are treated in offices and all those things go down. Secondly, by going through this process, we also release staff. So maybe once we get this done, you go to our offices and there will be no queues.
The system, he explains, would allow for the electronic assessment of tax filing of tax returns and payments of income, corporate and other related domestic tax payments.
You can also do portal online application for use of the portal, and that's also for individuals. For the corporate entities, we are requesting that they send the information by email. The portal allows you to file returns online, make payments for returns online. You can apply for tax refunds online. You can also apply for exemptions and manage your taxes in general.
The Ghana Revenue Authority is the government of Ghana agency responsible for oversight of all tax agencies in the country.
Now, President of the Ghana Employers Association, Alex Frimpong, has expressed worry over the flooding of the Ghanaian market with illicit goods. He contends the goods mostly imported are cheap and have undue advantage of those manufactured locally. Alex Frimpong says although the power crisis and forex instability remain a challenge, shoddy goods on the market is a great disincentive for businesses.
If we say that the goods are shoddy, it means that they don't meet the requisite standards per either the Food and Drugs Board or the Ghana Standards Authority. You see, again, even if the goods are not shoddy, if they do not pay the appropriate duties, it becomes cheaper and it affects the locally produced goods that have gone through all the processes, the payment of the appropriate taxes and levies and all that. So that is also another challenge. But by and large, many of these shoddy goods, one, are substandard, two, they pass through unapproved rules, three, they do not pay the requisite taxes to government. And we need to ensure that counterfeit, substandard goods are not entertained on the market. It has untold effects on the health of the population. It reduces government revenue. It also even compromises the ability of businesses to create more employment. It also affects the reputation of the country. So it's an issue that we really need to ensure that it does not continue. Otherwise, that canker will destroy the business environment.
Let's do some story on energy now. And Director for Renewable Energy at the Ministry of Power Wisdom, Ahiaktaku Togobo, says government is planning to establish 1,000 megawatt coal power plant in the country. He added that government is set to use nuclear energy as an alternative power source by 2013. This, he says, forms part of mediums to long-term measures by government to put an end to the current energy crisis.
The medium to long term, the intention is to deploy other cheaper generation options. If you look at the world in general, 52% of the world's electricity production is coming from coal. Coal tends to be a more cheaper option than heavy oil or even natural gas. The intention is to add up to about 1,000 meg coal power plant, and hopefully in the long term, by 2030 thereabout, the intention is to gradually look into the nuclear option.
And that'll be all for business. I'm Abigail Adomakwenchi. Sports is up next.
We can do some boxing now, and Asamoah Gyan is expected in Ghana this week for the WBA International Lightweight Championship bout being hosted by Baby Jet Promotions. The Alain Ace has put in a request to his club to enable him travel to Accra for the bout on Friday. Baby Jet Promotions are staging their latest boxing bout at the tennis court at the Accra Sports Stadium, and the syndicate's boss tells Joy Sports he wants to be a part of it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great bout. You know, as usual. My boy Emmanuel has been giving everybody an exciting bout every time. So it's not a surprise. This fight is going to be very, very interesting. You know, he's fighting against a tough opponent. So I think it's going to be a very, very difficult fight and very, very exciting. But I know Emmanuel is a crafty boxer, and he's going to give everybody an exciting bout. And of course, we're going to carry the day.
Well, this is the WBA International Lightweight Championship for your boxer, Tego. For you, the big boss, how big is this bout for your boxer?
Yeah, it's very, very important fight for him. He's well prepared. You can see, I think he's doubled up his training programs and everything, you know, because he knows the task ahead of him. You know, we all support him, and we think with the kind of qualities that he have, he can beat his opponent, and of course we might even get a knockout on that night.
Now time to talk about the UEFA Champions League, and great results coming in, especially for the holders Real Madrid, because they've done quite well in that. They managed to beat Atletico Madrid right at the death, pulling the fire and pulling a win out of the, dying embers of the game, winning that by 1-0 in qualifying as well. Just so much Juventus are through after they drew goalless in the game, keeping the 1-0 result. So we'll have a look at what happened then in terms of the result. We'll first of all start with the game in France. Monaco drew goalless with Juventus. Remember that Juventus were carrying that first leg advantage, so it stays this way on aggregate. Juventus qualified to the semi-final of the Champions League. Of course, we have a look again at Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid. Very, very tight game that was played out there at the Santiago Bernabeu. It was the Manchester Carito who got the final goal after a lovely pass by Ronaldo to ensure they won in the Bernabeu. So holders Real Madrid definitely getting to this, and we have the likes of Bayern Munich and Barcelona, Juventus all in the semi-finals. We'll find out on Friday who is going to be facing who at the semi-final. That'll be all for sports tonight. I'm George Addo Jr. You have a good night.
The family of the late Madame Theodosia Oko says it has drawn up a tentative program lining up activities towards the final funeral rites of their kinsman. This was made known to Joy News immediately after the first family meeting in Accra. Emmanuel spoke to the family head.
We are yet to meet the government, and therefore
This was just to understand what we're going to do, but no definitive dates yet.
But have you already decided on the day you're going to see the government and then roll out a program or something?
Yes, we have made the approach to government. We have a tentative appointment, but it has not been confirmed yet. It will be early next week sometime. And when that has happened, then we'll be able to then work around whatever suits the government.
Now, let's come back to what the government has done so far. So far, I think the national flag is flying at half-mast. What do you make of this particular decision by the government to do so?
Well, for us, we are gratified because it indicates the importance to which government attaches to the stature of and the position which my mother is in as the producer of the national flag. It means we put value to it, and that's a good indication of what the government thinks of her. It's great for us.
And that's it for the bulletin. Before we go a quick run through our top stories, and Accra High Court has discharged entertainment icon Kwesi Cheidakwa of rape allegations brought against him by 19-year-old lady in what the Attorney General says has been due to the refusal of the victim to testify. There's been an easy calm at Agboglushi as yet another person was injured in further skirmishes between two ethnic groups there. Tertiary students at the country's universities are vowing to resist the proposed cost sharing of utility bills on the various campuses. Joy News investigations have revealed massive diversion of chemicals and other inputs meant for the free mass cocoa spraying exercise in the Ashanti region. That's it for the bulletin. My name is Ujolai. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good evening.
This is Joy News Prime.